So, a Chinese super real estate giant known as Evergrande Group announced earlier this week that it would be unable to pay its interest payments on its loans coming due. And now, gold, the world's foremost store of value and safe haven asset, is on the clock. So, what does gold, and let's not forget silver, of course, have to do with the price of tea in China? Let's discuss that when we return. Hey, welcome back, everybody. I'm the Florida Stacker, and in today's video, we need to talk about what has happened in China. I'm going to look at a hypothetical situation with you today, and we're going to look at what we're seeing today, and also look back in time at the last real estate-sparked financial crisis, that financial crisis of 2008, known as the Great Recession, to see how both gold and silver performed, of course, as financial preppers or stackers of precious metals. I think it's important. So, the Evergrande Group, let's talk about them for a second. They are a massive Chinese property developer, and they are very much underwater today. Actually, they are unable to meet their interest payments, and the amount in dollars that this debt does amount to is a staggering $305 billion in debt, or 2% of China's total GDP, and they just announced they can no longer pay the light bill. So, this news is obviously reminiscent of the Lehman Brothers sparked 2008 financial crisis. So let's look at this. Now, I'm not a financial advisor, but what I am is a shrewd investor and a saver, as you can tell by stacking precious metals, and I keep my eyes on the market. So today, I'm going to play the what if game and look back in time at 2008 and see how gold and silver responded to the last housing crisis so I can get my ship in order for potentially rough seas that are coming ahead. If you recall, back in the mid to late 2000s, America was fighting two wars. We were in Iraq, we were in Afghanistan. The Federal Reserve was also holding interest rates at low, historically speaking, levels after the dot-com crash of the early 2000s, and that bubble burst just a few years prior. So a new housing market bubble began to emerge in the United States in the mid to late 2000s. And as you know, that bubble did burst. The housing market crashed. Millions of Americans, myself included, were suddenly underwater on their largest assets, of course, that being their homes. Credit tightened up, quantitative easing began, and the price of gold suddenly became more volatile during 2008 as it witnessed not one, but three total peaks during that year. Also, two large sell-offs, but gold ultimately ended the year up a little more than 3% in 2008. Now, in 2009, gold fared much better, dipping initially but rallied during the midsummer to close near $1,100, or for a gain of 27% up on the year in 2009. So when you look at the last financial crisis, gold, well, it did its job, okay? Had you have stayed the course with gold, you won, especially during 2008 when every asset tanked during this period. Real estate, the stock market, even the US dollar hit a record low of 71.3 on the DXY index. So now let's take a look at silver. And silver was actually having a pretty decent year for the first half of 2008. Silver did rise from $15 an ounce to nearly $21 an ounce in just a couple of months before stuttering sideways between $16 and $19 and then tanking once the crisis actually began. And it tanked all the way down to a low of $8.88 during the peak of the crisis before finishing the year at a spot price of $10.79. Wow, that seems so cheap today. All in all, silver lost 26.9% that year in 2008, that is. Better than some assets, actually, when you look at the stock market and especially real estate. Silver did perform better than those two asset classes. And in 2009, we did see a very massive year for silver as the overall global markets, they began showing signs of recovery. Gold was, as mentioned, up over 20% during 2009. And silver had a great year, up around 50%. So if there's anything that really jumps out to me by reviewing this history, it's that gold outperforms silver during financial crises, but silver outperforms gold during market recoveries. And we actually witnessed that just last year. We don't have to go too far back in time. If you remember, in 2020, the market sold off. Silver dropped from around 20 an ounce down to the high 11s. Gold, trying to remember what it was trading at that time, but had, in August of, 2019 had just hit an all-time high. So gold was down. Gold, of course, didn't go down nearly as far as silver. Silver went down quite far along with equities, and then both equities and silver came roaring back up, and gold has yet to hit those same levels. Kind of got close, but hasn't hit those same levels pre-COVID-19. So you can see that silver does fall with the overall equities market, of course, having much more strong industrial ties. That is, silver, okay, has much more strong industrial ties than gold. Gold is the ultimate store of value and is going to better weather those storms. Now, alarm bells have been sounding for a long time now. I mean, come on, people. The stock market hit record highs while half the world was locked down and unemployment numbers were skyrocketing as small and medium businesses are barely hanging on by a thread. So give me a break. This new crisis isn't starting. Do not be fooled. We boarded that riverboat a long time ago, and we're just now picking up pace. It's picking up pace, folks, and we can hear the roar of the waterfall as we approach the waterfall. We're getting close to that peak there, so I needed to stop and to think about how silver has performed during this 3 decades high inflationary market to gauge how far along we may be down this path. And so far, we're down 14% this year after a 47% gain in silver spot price last year. Gold is down 6% on the year, and so, I do have to wonder how big this drop is going to be when we actually do hit the event horizon, and how I should prepare as a stacker for that, being that I am a stacker of both physical precious metals, both gold and silver. I buy both, so maybe I should shift a little towards gold for the meantime. Let's see how this plays out. And if it does play out the way that I just described there to you, that would be the better play because gold will rebound quicker, and then wait for that time when silver hits rock bottom, and then really truly back up the truck, try to get around those premiums. Okay, so here is how I see this potentially playing out. If this erupts China's economic growth and it slows down even further than it already has in this, COVID world, right? Then you can expect further supply chain disruptions. I mean, you can't even get certain vehicles today because of the chip shortage coming out of China. There's all kinds of different supply chain issues that are still present today. So if GDP slows down even further, then that could put a further strain on supply and demand of key products coming out of China, which could potentially drive the equities market down, right? On those forecasts, that would spur more calls for more government spending and more printing of fiat currencies to keep the current administration here in the United States, like them or not, out of yet another first-year term crisis, right? The last thing they need is a financial crisis right now. And that, my friends, of course, will spur more spending and will send metals, along with everything else, initially down. Gold will lose less. It'll lose the least of all and recover much quicker. But on the back end of this, a massive potential rally in silver spot price could occur. We have seen those rallies of greater than 50% happen in years post-economic recession. Those, of course, holding silver, if this event were to play out, would witness once more a substantial drop in spot price, at first with massive demand spikes for physical precious metals, creating a repeat supply crunch. So those trucks backing up will be competing with one another. You got to remember, a lot of these LCSs, these small bullion dealers, they're not hedged like the big boys, okay? They don't have millions of dollars in other asset classes to potentially protect a huge drop in spot's value, okay? So they respond to that with increasing premiums, all right? That is, my friends, if you can find the silver and you can beat the premiums, then you'll do well. But you're going to probably run into a supply crunch issue and high premiums again if this is to play out. However, on the back end of this, prices will stabilize and the show will go on, and we'll start to see, as we are now, premiums coming down slightly, even though that may have already ended. So obviously, these are all theories of mine and anything can happen, and I want to make sure that this is clear. However, lessons can be learned by looking backwards, and so I will pay attention and potentially keep my eye on holding a little bit more cash during this period, potentially just stacking some gold and offloading a little bit of silver maybe for gold. That's a potential too. I know the GSR is widening and it's not as good as it was just a few weeks ago. But when you look at the 100 plus to 1 GSRs we saw last time silver dropped hard, we got to 121 to 1. I think trading silver for gold at around 80 to 1 would look pretty smart in that situation. I think you would agree with me. So I don't know. We'll see what we're going to do here. I don't normally like to do the GSR thing, but if we see this thing really start to click off, I will be a fast mover. So let me know your thoughts, of course. I'm sure this will ruffle a few feathers, but hey, at least I got you thinking. hopefully reading and perhaps even motivated to make sure that you have your financial house ready for what could come. If you're interested in any of the capsules you see here for the gold, or any of the silver capsules that I show in my videos, or the black gloves that I commonly wear, I have recently updated my video description section with links to all of those products directly at Amazon.com. So now you can go straight there and find all your gold and silver supplies. Please consider subscribing, hitting that thumbs up button if you enjoyed today's video, and joining me tomorrow at 5 p.m. with another unboxing of precious metals. I do have 10 ounces of silver to show you tomorrow. So until then, my friends, think about what's going on, read some articles, take a look back in time, make the best decision for yourself. Until then, take care, my friends.